Alright, so in today's video, I'm going to talk about my reflections and thoughts after the first KFL Night Fight League event. So I want to start by saying everything I'm talking about here is my own opinion as a competitor who fought in the very first inaugural KFL League event. I am not running this league. I'm not involved in organizing it. I am literally just a fighter who fights for one of the teams that got to go and is involved in it. And I get a little bit of, I wouldn't say inside information, or insight into it because the Knights Hall and the Knights Hall crew helped organize and run some of the KFL stuff, right? But I'm not involved in that. I don't know anything about the setup and organization and structure. I just tell you what it felt like fighting there and why I like the league, what I don't like, etc. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first thing I want to talk about is where can you see the fight? People ask me that, or people saying you're the only one talking about this right now. And that's because it kind of hasn't happened publicly yet. And what I mean by that, and this is my understanding, is that all of the fight was recorded by Ion TV, which is sponsoring this league, and they're going to use that to make videos and make a video event out of it. Might be stories, might be clips, might be full episodes. Like, I don't know, but like, unlike most events that we do where it's live streamed or someone just records it on their cell phone, we just post it, like this is being produced. So because of that, like, I don't have a lot of video yet. Like, the event hasn't come out. I'm not recording this after the show exists. I'm recording in that kind of in-between time. So I will put up a couple clips here that I have. The first one I'm just going to run right now is the promo that came out of it, which I thought was really cool. So while that promo is running, let's talk about what I think about it. I think it's cut well, edited well. I think it's done well. I think the music, which I'm going to have muted because I don't know the copyright rules, really great. And I'll put other clips going throughout this video of what I have just while I'm talking. So what was the event like? We went to the event, flew out there to LA from New Hampshire. It was 2 East Coast teams versus 2 West Coast teams. I thought that was really cool. As I talked about in an earlier video about this, the format is basically, Team A fights Team B in a chapter match, and then Team C and Team D fight in a chapter match. The winner of the first set of fights fights the winner of the second set of fights on day 2 in a second chapter match. You're fighting 2 chapter matches, and the losers fight each other 2 for 3rd and 4th place. So what I like about it is 2 chapter matches, right? So teams of 12. So you're having a decent amount of fighters getting involved in an event that only has 4 matches. This made it really competitive for me, but also a different experience than fighting at a tournament where I might just be fighting in my pools and kind of working my way out of it, is that you're really grinding up against one team for that entire match. First team to win 11 points wins the match. So you could have up to 22 rounds. I think on our first match against the Vanguard, I think we won 11-2 or 11-1. It was something like that. So it was only 13 rounds of fighting. I say only, like that's not a lot of rounds of fighting. It was a lot. And then the second day, I think we won 11-6, maybe 11-5, something like that. 11-5, 6. So again, more rounds. I think we fought, 15 to 16 rounds on that day. So what you're really looking at there is, a different format. We're really going head to head with that team. So what did this feel like to fight in? I mean, first of all, I think it's still my favorite format. I'll tell you that. It's a lot of rounds for 2 matches, right? And none of those went to tie. None of those 22 rounds a match that they could go to. So I think we have evenly matched teams. It's going to be brutal. And, I will say, I want to be very clear, we won. The Executioners won. Yay us. First place. Both the teams we fought were incredibly hard, right? The score against Vanguard being 11-1, 11-2 did not indicate the feeling of those rounds. We won a lot of rounds with, only a couple people standing. We went down people and had to fight our way back. It was a brutal experience to do, and I think it's brutal for everyone who did it, all 4 teams, because you're really grinding out, and there's no fight a couple rounds, get a big break, come back and fight later. You're fighting, every 5 minutes you have a set of rounds, and there's basically a 5-minute break. And in between it, as I've talked about, there was longsword duels and pro fights that were different events. They were not scored toward the melee. So the main event is the melee, but there are their own mini tournaments in between that. But the cool thing is they got to be on your team, right? So you had to put a longsworder, fighter on your team, and they either need to fight longsword And that's it, or they fight longsword and fight melee. They're a pro fighter, can either fight the pro fight, maybe you're melee, but it's part of your 12, so you gotta math it in there, depending on what you want to win. And every single category wins money. So like, you want your team to win, you want to bring money back to your team, right? So like, it's a competitive way of doing things that's different than most formats I've seen we're fighting in that tournament. So that's the format. I've talked about it before. It's a chapter match. I've talked about chapter matches before. How did it go for this event? So let's talk about the positives first, right? I think the event was very smooth. It ran very well because, again, with 4 teams in that limited amount of kind of moving around, you're only fighting one team at a time. The schedule's easy. You show up at before your fight time, you're there, you armor up, you fight, you run your event. It kind of lasts about 2 hours, give or take, and then there's the next fight after, and that's it for the day. So you're not in armor all day. You're not running 60 teams around trying to math everybody out and figure out where they gotta be. You just need to be there, do your match, and it felt like a traditional sporting event to me. It felt like back when I used to play basketball in high school, and I would go and hey, it's a game tonight. You show up and do the game, right? Or travel. When I was travel teams for AAU and stuff. You would travel and you go, hey, we're competing against this. Like, I really like that feeling of just being a game, right? Feeling like a game. So that was great. The fans, from what I saw, love it. So we're LA Fitness Festival, FitFest, and it was a very big fitness convention as far as fitness conventions go. A lot of fitness celebrities there, which was kind of cool. I got to meet a couple of people that I really like. I get to meet Joey Swoll, who's a guy on TikTok and YouTube that I really like his message about positive gym culture. Got to meet Tank Tolman, who's on TikTok as a guy who dresses up as a Viking and does positive gym and workout stuff, and I think he's a super sweet guy. We actually got him in armor and he got to fight against Dustin at the end, so that was pretty cool. But you got to meet all these people. That's great. But as far as the fans, everyone seemed to really love this format. So here's a negative. We didn't have good mics or good announcing. It just didn't happen. I don't know why. I'm not in charge of it. I would have loved to have a good mic set up so people could explain the format. We ended up, if you weren't fighting, or if you were in between, like when it wasn't my time to fight, I would actually walk around and talk to the audience and explain it. But here's the weird thing. I've been to a lot of events where we've had good mics, they had decent announcers, and to the tournament format, and people will come in to watch a little bit of it, and they go, that's cool, and they'll wander off. People stayed the whole 2 hours here. Like when I was watching the other teams fight and I was watching the fans, the same fans were there. People showed up and they didn't leave. And I think it's because they could inherently understand it. They got this team fights this team. And once you figure it out it's to 11, you go, okay, I know what's happening. I don't have to learn a new team, I don't have to rotation. There's no who goes to what bracket. It was really simple. So people could watch it and go, I get it, this is intense, and I understand it. So that was really cool to see, right? And again, this was the first debut. This was a test run for this league. I don't think it was meant to be fully fleshed out. I think it was meant to be set up well and run well. There's a lot of things that can be expanded on. I think the other thing that I really, really liked about it was the support from Ion TV. So there were a lot of camera people there. I'm hoping cool stuff come out. They had cool merch. So I have a KFL hat here. It's kind of a little hard to see, so I'll do that. They gave some hats, they gave t-shirts. That just feels good. We were out there. And then the big part, which I've done before, is this was fully sponsored for the fighters. When does that ever happen? Sometimes pro fights will be. I've never seen a Team Melee event be. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know of one, right? So we got flown out there. We got hotel rooms. We had transportation to the event. We got to the event and we got to stay there obviously 2 days and then flew back on Monday. So the great part about it for me was like, it felt like a pro sport. Like you went out there, you weren't paying out of your pocket to go compete. You competed, and then if you won, you actually took home money. So it wasn't a ton of money. Basically winners ended up around, I think, $300 a person for Melee teams. And then it went down a little bit for each place. I don't know the full dollar values. I'm not that concerned about it because I was just happy to not be paying out of my own pocket to go out there. So it was really cool to have this feel like a real league, right? So that was a positive. So one of the negatives, a little bit, the reffing was a tough situation. This I'm not putting on anybody. We were out in LA while the California fires were happening. We were lucky the event even got held. We had refs who were supposed to be coming in from some of the local teams areas, from what I understand, and because of the fires and people evacuating, they weren't able to be. there. So we had a smaller reffing team that I think they're going to have at other events. That made it a little bit, a couple moments. I just think there weren't enough refs to watch everything. Here's what I will say. The competitors were great. We had a couple instances of potential neck strikes, and the captains talked to each other, but it was a little bit tougher with the reffing with a small ref crew. I don't think that'll happen again. I think that was extenuating circumstances due to the situation of us being literally in LA while there were fires happening, in the same city. I mean, it's a big city, but the same city, right? Or same areas, I should say. So that was something I'd like to see improved on. That's it, right? I think the cool thing about this, I haven't done a chapter match like this in a long time that was this intense, and it does change your strategy. So unlike necessarily in a tournament melee where it's just the quickest takedowns all I care about, you're going to fight a team for 11 to 22 rounds, like I said. So sometimes you're going, I might throw more shots and do a little more damage, quote unquote, than I would just getting a quick takedown. I might wear somebody down more. I might grind on someone if I had the advantage. I might fight harder, down numbers because I can wear out their fighters. There's a lot of kind of strategy to that versus just being efficient isn't always the same thing in a chapter match, right? The other part, I will be honest, was hard. Is 2 back-to-back chapter matches was a lot. I'm no young spring chicken guy. I got the gray in my beard. Fighting 2 basically enough rounds to be 2 full regular tournaments by the time I was done, because I fought every round on day 2. I fought most of the rounds on day 1. Is a lot. I didn't get injured, thankfully, but I was beat and battered and sore, and my knees hurt for the next couple weeks, and it was a rough experience. It was very intense. That's not a negative, that's not a positive, that's just the reality of a combat sport at a competitive high level like this, where you really are going to be seeing people who want to compete at this regularly are going to have the endurance as well as the skills. There are a lot of teams I've fought out there where I go, yeah, you're going to be good for a couple rounds in a tournament, and if you get an hour break, you'll be good again, but can you go over and over and over and over again, right? I think it's also going to cause more lineup strategy changes. So something that needs to be worked out a little bit more, I think, with some of these teams is you can't just run your best 5 all day. Maybe you can. Maybe their conditioning's great. But there'll be times where you go, I want to rest some people. Do you rest your whole front line? Do you rest a couple people? But that means your starter's still in there. So 3 of them might be in there, so they're getting beat up a little bit more. And I think there's more kind of teamwork strategy in how you play positions and when you let people take breaks. That's going to matter as this evolves and becomes more codified as a system, right? So overall, KFL, I think it's a huge plus. I really liked, and I'll put a picture of it here too. They gave us the medals were these big, cheesy, giant medals. They're actually foam. And some people were like, I hate this. I kind of didn't like it, then I loved it. And I'll tell you why. I didn't like it because I wanted my metal heavy bling. That's just you get a medal. It's called metal. It's not called foam, right? But it was super light to wear. And that may seem silly, but we have a tradition on the executions that when you win your medal, you wear it home. And it means it stays on you until you get off the airplane back where you are, right? So you wear it out to dinner, you wear it to anything you do. These things were giant and silly. They never felt annoying to wear because they're so light. But everywhere we went, people asked us about it. What's the KFL? What's the Night Fight League? You can read it. You can see what it was. On the airplane on the way home, people were talking about it. We were telling people, oh, where can I watch it? I want to see it. So, that's going to pay dividends down the line if we can make promo gear, even if it's your medal, something that draws people attention, right? There were a ton of interviews done by the Ion team. I don't know what's going to happen with them. There were a ton of people recording stuff. Again, I don't know the details. I hope something cool comes out of it. I'm fingers crossed a really cool production comes out of this, something that we can be proud of, that we can have as part of the legacy of building the sport. But for me, overall, huge win. First pro league NLA event that I'm aware of in the U.S. First pro league I'm aware of in the U.S. That's Melee, right? This is a huge step for the sport. People are going to ask me how to get involved in this league. And I have fighters reach out to me. I'll have maybe captains reach out to me. It's guaranteed because it happened even when I spoke about it before. Now that I'm saying it's good, people are going to want to be involved. I get it. I'm going to tell you to go to the Knights Hall. Go to knightshall.com and message there if you want your team to be involved. I don't have any say in what teams are in this. I don't have any structure in that. I am literally a fighter on a team, and one of my team's involved in it. Some of the criticism I've heard people was is it just going to be a demonstration league? Are the best teams going to be able to do it? Or I don't know, but I don't think it matters at this point. Right now, we need to get a core set of teams to establish a league, right? I think they're going to be good teams. I don't think it can be, I don't want like beer league fighting. I want high level fighting. But what I really want is some consistency of teams over a season of whatever it is so we can test this theory really and see if it works. I will tell you that the teams we fought out there, LA, awesome, great guys, hard fighters, really tough. Vanguard, Johnny Porter on it, brutal to fight him. He is, if not the best, one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world right now. He is unbelievably good and such a challenge to wrestle. Even when I've got, I don't know, like 100 pounds on him, who knows? But like he is a monster. So it was really great fighting against him. Golden Horde had a couple guys off Dominus on it, so there's some. Obviously, we had some, some different team mixes from the local team and all that, and that's awesome. The rules, I understand it, is that your team has to be made up of fighters within 500 miles of whatever your home base is, like wherever your home center is. This again is to help build regional teams so that we can eventually have regions competing. I don't expect the Executioners like next year to fly out to LA to be fighting it. I'm hoping that there's 4 local-ish, West Coast teams who are doing the West Coast event, East Coast doing the East Coast type events, regional, and then the winners of those come together for the championships. Like that's what I envision in my head is happening. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. Don't know. Again, not in charge, just sharing my thoughts. I can say though that I'm very, very optimistic for this. I think it's the coolest thing that I've seen in the sport is making this feel like a real sport to me, and not just a set of tournaments. I'm pumped for it. Now, Carnage happened the week after. I had so much FOMO when I missed out on Carnage, and I was watching all the clips and the videos. It's fantastic. Carnage is amazing. I'm glad that giant event exists for all of the fighters to come together and have a huge tournament. It's awesome. I just don't think you can grow the fan audience that way. I think that this has the potential to really feel like a league at some point. Not a set of tournaments, not an event, but a true league. I'm hoping that happens. I'm hoping this is the growth we see. If you have questions, you want to know more, always reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere you want to talk to me. Woodchuck Knight. Like, subscribe, follow, check out the merch link below, buy some of my stuff, help support the channel. Hope you have a great day.